So in this video, I wanted to spend a few minutes talking about fountain pen cartridges. Specifically this is called the Standard International Long cartridge. I think most of us will be familiar with this. This is a Standard International Short cartridge, usually called a Standard International, and it's a size that many different fountain pen manufacturers have basically agreed on using. It's more common from European manufacturers, but people from all over the world do use this size. The issue with it is that it's quite short. Called the Standard International Short, it's 0.8 milliliters, so very limited capacity, and it's 38 millimeters long. The much less common and much larger alternative to it is the Standard International Long. This is 73 millimeters long and 1.45 milliliters, so about twice the length and about twice the capacity. And you could see it here. And typically what happens is you'll buy a lot of pens and they'll have two, or they'll have room for two international short cartridges put kind of end to end. The international long takes advantage of that extra space, and you could get it all in a single cartridge. And because they don't have this the additional neck piece here, then you have a little bit extra capacity there. But it's pretty similar. And then of course, if you have a pen with a smaller body, it will be able to accommodate a Standard International Short, but perhaps not a Standard International Long. The International Long, you'd think they'd be all over the place, but they're actually quite rare relative to the International Short. They're not rare per se. You don't see them nearly as often as you see the Short. This is one brand, Pelikan or Pelikan, whatever. They do make them. This is called the Edelstein, and this is the Adventurin, but it's like a jungle green, kind of a bluish green. It's a nice color. They have it in the Standard International Long right here. It's really nicely printed. You can see it's kind of with the printing and the metal case, it's kind of a special edition type thing. But it is available. I have picked a couple up, and I wanted to just do a quick demo of it. Just because, again, the Standard International Long is a useful cartridge, just not one you see every day. Here I have a couple different proprietary cartridges. The Japanese manufacturers are more prone to using the proprietary cartridges. So I do have one Japanese one here and then some others. So let's get into them and we'll compare them to the International Long before we get going. First up, I have a Platinum. It's proprietary, only Platinum pens use it, or Platinum's partners use it as well. But it's basically Platinum's design. This is I'd say a moderately sized Japanese cartridge, and you can see the Standard International Long is a good deal larger than that. Here we have Lamy. This is Lamy's T10, another long-standing cartridge design. This one's a little bit on the larger side, and you can see it's not as big as the Standard International Long. And then Lamy's has this little kind of neck narrowing piece up there as well, so it could fit into certain Lamy pens. Lastly, we have this. This is a Parker. It's also used by Aurora, but it's basically, this is a Parker refill, and this is a much larger refill. This is like I think a 1.4 milliliter or so, so it's right about the same size as the SI Long. And again, it's a very long refill relative to what you would typically see. So there is just a sampling of refill types. You can see the kind of length there. These markers are 1/2 inch, so we have a pretty long refills here. And let's just remove everything except for the two longest. Again, this is the Parker size. I think this is technically an Aurora, but they are the same, and it's slightly larger than the Standard International Long, but it does have a taper towards the top, whereas this one it actually tapers outward towards the top, which this taper downwards makes sense. There's a lot of Parker tend to use skinnier fountain pens, especially over the years, and the pens do tend to taper towards the top. This design, one of the reasons you don't see the Standard International Long so often is the shape of the refill. It's a pretty good match for the shape of the Short. Basically, the starting point is the same and the ending point is the same. This one just has a more gradual taper because it's going over, 73 millimeters instead of 38 millimeters. So this one has a slightly sharper angle, as you can imagine. So how does this work in practice? Basically, you have to make sure you have a pen that accepts standard international refills, and then one that is large enough to accept a standard international long. You'll know that because when the pen ships, it'll probably have two standard international shorts, usually one with ink in it and then a blank inside the body. When I say a blank, it's just sometimes you'll buy a pen and there'll be a cartridge that's fully empty and it's kind of in here as a placeholder. And that's so that if you have a short in here, it kind of doesn't get knocked around and fall out of the pen while it's in transport. The interesting thing is, even though the pen body might be long enough to accommodate the cartridge, you don't know what the interior design is like. If this is a straight barrel, then it's not going to be a problem. If it tapers in, or maybe there's something in here, just like an end plug or something like that, then maybe a long refill like this won't work. As far as actually using it goes, it's no different than a standard international short, or any other refill type for that matter. You just kind of find that little piece in there. You get this end with the little ball there, you put it in, you pop it, you feel kind of a little click or something, and now we're good to go. Gotta wait a little bit usually to get these going. It just has to do with the pen and the feed and kind of how well you cleaned it last time, and the thickness of the ink, and a few different factors like that, but it doesn't really have anything to do with the cartridge itself. Okay, so it's a minute or two later and this pen is writing. This pen was used before and not perfectly cleaned, so it may take a few minutes. It may take a few minutes until this ink is exactly the color that we would expect, but the point that we're trying to get across is that the standard international long refill is in there, it works, and you're getting pretty serious capacity out of it. If you think about the design of a cartridge like this, I keep saying a refill, I mean a cartridge, it doesn't have any of the mechanism of a converter, right? There's no piston, there's no air pocket, there's no column in the middle so that the plunger can move up and down. So basically you have a pretty large capacity, about as large a capacity as you could have, except for something where the actual housing of the pen is what contains the ink. Then obviously if you have that sort of design, like an eyedropper, you're gonna have the maximum capacity. The next best thing is a cartridge like this. A converter or a smaller cartridge obviously is going to get much smaller capacity. So if you're looking for a higher capacity fountain pen, then a standard international long or a larger fountain pen cartridge like a Parker is going to be the way to go. Again, switching out a cartridge is not really a big deal. So if you have two international shorts on you, you're getting up to, I forget what I said, 0.6 milliliters. So you're pretty good. The SI long is going to give you a little bit less than that. So again, it's not a giant trade-off, but it's just a fun, interesting refill. And again, not one you see that often, especially given how common the international short is. So just a quick recap on that. Thanks for watching.